We're making dirty rice casserole. Yes, we are. And here's what you need to make it. Well, I usually use 4 different kinds of meat in my regular dirty rice. So I'm going to do the same thing with the casserole. I'm going to put 4 different kinds of meat, but you can use whatever kind of meat you want. 1, 2, 3, 4 different kinds. It's really up to you. We'll need gizzards, ground beef, ground pork, and I'm going to use breakfast patties, but ideally you would want to use a ground breakfast sausage if you have some. So we need flour, oil, and butter for the roux. So you don't necessarily have to use the butter either. You can just use the flour and the oil. We're going to need onion, bell pepper, celery, and garlic for sure. Cream of mushroom soup, beef broth. All right. Pepper, black pepper for sure. You can use ground black pepper if you want to. It'll work. Cajun seasoning for sure. Gives it a little kick. It's good. Don't skip that one. Garlic powder, onion powder, sazon. I'm going to use La Preferita sazon, but you can use any kind of seasoned salt you want to use. It'll work for sure. Green onions for the garnish. Definitely need green onions. And rice. Don't skip the rice. And salt for the rice. All right, so we're going to start by chopping the veggies. So I'm going to start with the celery first. Try to give the celery a dice. So instead of the big pieces, I split it down the middle. So I'm going to cut it small like that. So my suggestion to you is that you cut yours the same way, if all possible. And I'm going to use the celery leaves as well because I think it gives a little more flavor to the dish. I always like to use the celery leaves. So you won't see them. They'll cook away. But guarantee the flavor will be there. All right, that's what we want. So nice little dice on that. And chop up the leaf part of it. And that's it. That'll work out for us. That's exactly what we need. So scoop it up. And we'll go on to the next veggie. So clean your board off real good. All right, on to the onion. And don't forget before you start to wash your veggies. Wash and dry them off as good as you can. So I've already done that, so I don't do that on camera. But rest assured, I do wash my vegetables. So this, I will give a big chop. This is going to cook down really well. So the onion, don't worry about cutting it as small as I just cut that celery. Yeah, don't worry about that. These will cook down a lot quicker anyway, so no biggie on that one. All right, on to the green pepper. So this is how I cut mine. You cut your green pepper the way you want. So I usually go around the sides, cut it off like this, and then cut the bottom of it off, and that's it. I know some people take the top off usually, and they take that core out, and then cut it up. So however you cut your green pepper, have at it. It's going to work. Either way, we're going to get chopped green pepper, right? Have it your way. All right, I take out that little rib right there. I take those off. It won't make or break the dish if you don't take that rib off. I just do it. So you don't have to. You can just cut the pepper up and it's fine. So once again, no big deal with that either. All right, so I just want to show you. Yeah, give these a chop too, about the same size as the celery. So it's like more like a dice. All right, so it's a larger dice as opposed to the big chop we gave the onions. All right, that's what we want right there. That's good. And you don't necessarily need the whole entire green pepper. So, and another thing is if you want to use another color pepper, you definitely can. All right, so the next thing we want to do, we want to get some oil in the pan. Make sure it's hot. Get your ground pork in there. Let's get this seasoned. Ground pork is it's like a blank slate. It's like you've got to flavor it the way that you want it to. So you use whatever seasonings you want to use, or either use the same ones that I use. That's fine. But however you normally season your ground beef or your ground meat when you get your ground turkey or whatever when you get it, season this the same way. But this has got to have some flavor, so you've got to season it a little more than you would season the other kinds of meat. And that's why it's so much oil in the pan too, because ground pork is rather dry. All right. And it's okay when you cook this if you don't get this to like a crumble mixture. You don't necessarily have, you can leave some chunks of meat if you like chunks of meat in your dirty rice, or you just like chunks of meat in your food. This is one of the dishes where it's okay if your meat is not like a crumbly texture. All right, so I'm just going to show you, cook it for a little bit. And just let it go for a bit. So I am breaking mine up with the spatula, but that's what I'm saying. You don't have to. You don't want really, really big pieces either, but if you have some bigger chunks, then it's okay. Still, we're just going to get a mouthful of meat and rice. Yes. Either way, so that'll be good. All right. That's what it looks like when it's done. So I just wanted to make sure you could see how it would be once it was completely ready. And it's pork, so make sure you completely cook it because it's pork. So you don't want to leave any of it pink inside. Well, not really pink, but you don't want to leave it undone on the inside. All right, I'm just making sure it's really done. I don't play with pork. I don't play around with that. I make sure it's fully done. So I don't want to dry the meat out, but I want to make sure it's done too. So I've stepped away for a moment. I'm going to dump that into a bowl. All right, come right back with the pan. All right, I'm wiping the side of it off. I don't want that oil on the side of the pan. A little more oil in there. All right, in go the gizzards. I chopped my gizzards up. If you want to boil your gizzards and chop them up, that's just fine because that's how a lot of people do it anyway. But I chopped mine up here so that they'll get ready a little quicker. So I wouldn't have to wait for them to boil, which is okay if you have the time, then that's just fine. Either way, more than one way to skin a cat, right? All right, season your gizzards. As you can see, I'm pretty light on the seasoning. I don't want to make the dish too salty at the end, so I don't want to put a lot of salt and then at the end, because you can't take it out, you can't take it away, so it'll mess it up if you have too much seasoning in it. It's better to lightly season along the way, because we season every step of the way. Lightly season along the way, and then adjust your seasonings at the end when everything is mixed up. Then you can put more salt if it's needed. You just don't want your meat to be bland, so that's the reason why we put some seasoning on it. All right, so at this point they browned pretty nicely. I got them on like a medium heat now. What's going to happen is I'm going to let them go for a little bit, and then I'm going to put some beef broth in it. And the reason why is because I'm going to get them tender, because it's hard to cook gizzards and then fry them right here. You have to do it for a while. So you won't be able to do it for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes and they're ready. They'll still be tough little pieces of meat. So you have to add some kind of liquid to it so that they get tender. Now I added the liquid to it. I didn't put a top on it. You can put a top on your pan if you want to. They'll get tender even quicker. But actually, if you fry them like this, you brown them, and then you put that broth in it, it gets tender pretty quickly. So it'll work out. But if you don't trust that cooking process, then go your way and put a top on it. Because by all means, nobody wants tough pieces of meat in their dish. I definitely don't. I am a meat eater. So let this go for a couple of minutes. Then you'll see next that I'm going to have the broth in it. And I'm going to let it go with that broth for a minute. All right. So it's going, just like I said. That's what you want it to boil up a little bit. Don't talk about my floor. Pay attention to the food. Do not talk about my floor right there. I'll get that tile changed. I promise I will. It's coming. I need to wait for it to warm up a little bit. All right, so let your gizzards go a little bit. Let them tenderize here. So actually, they've been going, so they already have. But always take one piece out and test it to make sure for yourself that your meat is tender. You won't be chewing on pieces of leather. You definitely don't want to. All right, so we're going to do the same thing with this. Take it off and put it into a bowl. Wipe the pan off, and that gravy was in there. So this time, wipe your pan out and then put some oil in it. All right, because then go the veggies, and we're going to let those go for a minute. All righty, so you can see I have the onions bigger than the celery and the green pepper. So get a little salt on those and a little pepper. That's good. So you see I was light on the salt, but you do want to put some salt on this part at this point. So remember, that's my favorite saying, season every step of the way. Just lightly season, but make sure you do it. All right, we're going to let this cook down for a little bit. Make sure you keep on stirring it. I have it on I have it on the high heat eye on the stove, so I'm going to put it on like a medium low, and it's still going to go. So if it's on the regular eye on your stove, then just put it on a medium, and that's going to work, a medium heat. That is going to definitely work. All right, I'm going to list the ingredients, the amounts in the description box below. So never fear, I got you. I will take care of that. Make sure. As with any dish, I always tell you read the entire recipe before you start making it. Read the entire recipe and then start. So, all right. Got it going. Just let it go. Oh, so this is one of those granite nonstick pans, the one they say you can cook the egg in without putting oil in it. But for some reason, it's just a habit. I always put oil in it anyway. It's like I can't help it. I don't like to just put my food in and let it cook in any pan. So I like the pan though. I do. I got it from Walmart. I really like it. All right, let this go for a minute. All right, and then when your onions get translucent, take those out and put them in a bowl. Now onto the meat. I'm going to cook the ground beef and the sausage together. So you can see I'm tearing up the sausage. If you have ground sausage already, then you just put it in with the meat and you won't have to bother with that tearing it up. But I'm going to bring this to like a crumbly texture. So it's going to be smaller crumbles. I'm going to break it up as it cooks. I just want you to see how that goes. So it's perfectly okay. And just because of the ground beef, we do still have to put a little seasoning in here. You know the sausage is seasoned already. I still want to put some seasoning on that ground beef. I just want to make sure it's got some flavor in it. So it'll cook down in its own oils, the own fat, but the sausage as well. So you'll still get a nice flavor out of this. So you don't have to really heavily season this part of it. But you do want to season it though. So don't get me wrong. So break your meat up just like I'm doing with that spatula. So break your meat up while it's cooking. Then you won't have to do so much of that at the end after it browns. You won't have to just go through there and keep breaking up. But some people I've seen use a potato masher. You know those old time mashers. I do have one. I haven't seen one in a while, but I do have one. But I see some people use that for their meat, so that might work as opposed to a rubber spatula. So just try that because you kind of put it down on it and give it a little twist, and it's supposed to break that meat up for you. All right, let it go, let it brown some. So you do have time at this point to step away if you have something else right there on the countertop that you need to do. But don't go too far away. Don't leave your pan on the stove and then just walk completely away. No, don't do that. Stay close by and watch your meat. All right, so I let this go so long just in case I have cooks that are beginners. I like for the people that just started cooking to see the entire cooking process or just about the entire cooking process. So that's why I leave the meat on, the veggies on, just let them go because I like for them to see what it's supposed to look like along the way. Because sometimes it's very confusing when you first start cooking and you don't have anybody there to really tell you details of how a process goes. And so that's why sometimes some of my videos are quick, but sometimes some of them are not because I like for people that just started to cook to really get a handle on it and really learn. Because it's something that I like to do anyway. But once you start doing it, it's something you can't help it. You will like it. All right. So meanwhile, while it's going like this, I'm still in the kitchen. I have things on the table and I have things on the countertop. So I still have things that I'm trying to prep while this is browning. So, okay, I just want you to see this mixture once it's done. So this is what it's going to look like. There you go. See, it's a crumbly texture. See what I mean by crumbly? It's the same way most people do their meat when they make spaghetti. They take it and break it up until they get this type of mixture right here, so that you get little pieces of meat all through your dish. So you get some of the meat in every bite. That's my goal with this dirty rice, is that you get some of the meat in every bite. I'm going to make the roux right here. So we need the oil and the flour. Mainly, you can use the butter if you want to. So I'm going to use it. But if you don't want to use that butter or you don't feel comfortable, don't use it. But it's not likely to burn on you because the oil is in the pan. So if it was just butter and flour, you'd have to watch that butter because it would brown and then burn very quickly. But since it's in with the oil, then it's okay. So if you know how to make a roux already, then this part is not for you. This part is for people that are learning how to make a roux. And it's important to know how to make a roux. It's the beginning of a gravy. It's the beginning of gumbo. It's a very important beginning of gumbo. So if you're learning how to cook, it's one thing to learn early on is how to make a roux. So I'm going to show you the entire process on exactly how to make a roux and make it correctly. So you can use a whisk right here if you want to. You don't need to. Those lumps, they're going to cook out. So as you stir with a spatula, those lumps of flour that you saw, as you can see, they're disappearing. All right, so I have my heat on a medium. I got it sort of a little bit lower than a medium, but not quite on low. So it's not, because I need for this to keep cooking the same way you see those it bubbling up like that. That's exactly what you need for it to do. Now, at this point, this is getting rid of the raw flour taste. So normally, when you put raw flour in something, it's not very palatable. So at this point, this is cooking the raw flour taste out of your roux. So that's what you want. I use even amounts for roux, and some people don't, but me using even amounts, it works for me. So if I use a half a cup of flour, I use a half a cup of oil. So that's my suggestion. If you don't quite know how to make a roux, then it works out. Just use even amounts. I promise you, you're going to see. I'm going to show you the entire process, and I promise you it's going to work. So keep going. Just keep the bottom of your pan scraped. You don't want your roux to stick or burn. So we do want it darker, because if you do it like right here and you take it out, you're going to get like a lighter roux. So I call it a blonde roux, really lighter roux. And that's not the type of look we're looking for. That's normally with like smothered chicken. I'll normally do that lighter colored gravy. But here, I want the roux to cook some. I want it to get a little darker, so a darker caramel color. Excuse me, I'm sorry. A darker caramel color is what I'm looking for. So that's what you want. But you don't want it to burn, so keep on scraping your edges and putting them toward the middle. So keep stirring. Don't let it stick. And don't let those bits around the edges burn. So keep going. Do not, if you have just learned how to cook or you're just learning, do not step away from your roux. I'm used to cooking roux. I'm not gone that far. Don't go far. That's what we're looking for. So now we'll get the minced garlic in. So now we get into the get down. Get into the get down, baby. All right, so make sure when you put this garlic in here, it's important that you keep stirring right here. You do not let the roux or the garlic burn. If that garlic burns, your dish is ruined. You can't use that. So your roux is not your dish. I'm sorry. Your roux is ruined. You will have to redo it if you let that garlic burn in there. Burned garlic has a putrid taste. It is not good, and it will ruin your dish. So keep scraping the bottom of the pan like I'm doing. Just keep stirring. It's getting darker. Keep stirring. Keep stirring. Don't stop. Now take your time with this. And you can't be leaving. Go on watching TV. Go on watching the kids. You cannot do anything when you're working with that roux right there. You got to stay right there. Cream of mushroom soup goes in. I told you we were getting to the get down, baby. Let's go. Stir this in really well. You don't want it to look like this, so you want to get it fully incorporated. Keep stirring, get it mixed really, really well. So you don't want to see any of those streaks in there like that. You want this to be a really smooth looking gravy when you're done. Now that's what you want right there. That cream of mushroom is kind of thick, so that's why it takes a minute to get it mixed really well. Keep working with it. Just keep stirring. Just keep bringing the edges of it around into the middle part of it. That's how you do that. Now at this point, once we put the broth in, you can use a whisk. If you're not used to doing this, it's okay to use a whisk. But I guarantee you that if you keep using your rubber spatula, you're still going to get a smooth gravy right here. So this is going to boil a little bit. And then it's going to incorporate. And when it does, you're going to get a smooth texture. So just keep stirring. Just don't stop. So you see I put some of the broth in, stirred it. Now I'm putting some more and stirring it. So you really, really, really want to mix this part really well, because this is the base of our casserole. All right, so that's what you're going to have when the broth is in there with that roux. So you just want to get it, bring it back to boiling, so you can see around the edges it's boiling a little bit for me. It's bubbling up. That's what you want. All right. I'm going to get a whisk. You don't necessarily need one right here, but it's good if you do. But you could have brought it to a higher boil and then just kept stirring it with that rubber spatula. So you still would have gotten a smooth texture, the one we're looking for. And if you got non-stick pots, then make sure you invest in a rubber whisk spatula. Make sure you get a rubber whisk. All right. All right, look at that. That's beautiful. And that's exactly what you want. All right, my people, keep stirring, my people. Look at that. That looks delicious. Yeah, you could use this part for smothered chicken. You really could. Yes, baby. Now look at that. Just showing you the consistency right there. Right, and the little pieces you see right there, that's the garlic. So that's not lumps of flour, but you make sure when you're looking at it, that it's really not lumps of flour. So you make sure it really is that garlic. All right. Boiling around the edges at this point, so I'm just taking this time to clean my area up a little bit while I bring this to a nice little boil here. See, it's bubbling up. That's what we want. Mm-hmm. All right, so taste it at this point and adjust your seasonings a little bit if you have to. So if you want to add a little bit more salt or pepper right here, you can. Even a little bit more Cajun seasoning. Mm-hmm. You just want to be sure, especially before you start getting the rice and everything in here, that this base, this gravy has a great taste. If it does not, add. So you can see I'm adding a little seasoning. I'm adding a lot of seasoned salt to it. So this needed more salt, but don't oversalt your dish. Be careful. More Cajun seasoning. Because remember, this is the base of our dish. All right. All right, get those stirred up really well. And right after this is when we're going to put the rice in. So get those seasonings incorporated really, really well. Yes. All right. That's right. Make sure you get the outer edges around that. Make sure you get those in too. So everything's evenly seasoned. I'll taste again. So if you have to adjust again, because this is the final step before we start adding all of the other ingredients. So this needs to be perfect. This needs to taste delicious. And it does. So in goes the rice. All right, so here we go. In goes the rice. All right, so get that rice stirred up really well too. And make sure your oven is preheated at 350 degrees. You want to make sure that your oven is already heated. Because when this goes in the oven, it's going to go in for half an hour. So make sure you got that on. And make sure everything is organized on your countertop or your table and that you're ready to assemble. Because this now is only going to take a few minutes after you stir this rice in here. We're going to be minutes away from stirring everything else in and then putting it in our pan. So we're at the end of the assembly process almost. Mm-hmm. Break up those chunks of rice. You definitely don't want any chunks of rice in this dish. All right. All right. That looks delicious. Baby, lucky I ain't spoon this on the plate and give me some chicken on the side of it. Yes. Ooh, and it smells so good. So wait until you make it. It smells so good. If you're a dirty rice lover, authentic dirty rice, then you want to add more pepper in here. I have children eating, so I did not add a lot of pepper in here, but a lot of black pepper. All right, let's get the meat and veggie mixture in here. Now, you don't have to use all of this meat. I'm going to use almost all of it. So I am definitely a meat lover along with being a rice lover. So I'm going to get this stirred in here. Mix it really well here. So as you can see the gravy around the outer edges, you want to make sure all of that is stirred into the dish. So you don't want to pour it into the pan looking like this. Make sure you have an entire meat and rice mixture along with the gravy. So keep stirring until you get it all stirred up really, really well. You see that? And that's what we're looking for. I'm going to put a little more meat in there for me. So I did not pour that all in. There's some fat, some grease in there, and we don't want that in the dish because already we have sausage and ground beef, and it's going to keep cooking in the oven. So you'll see it when it comes out that it's going to bubble up some of that fat to the top of the dish, but it's really good. Trust me on that one. It is really delicious. All right, so over to our pan. I'm using a paella pan. If you want to use a roast pan or um, another deep baking pan, you can. One of those square deep ones. That's fine. So you want to make sure whatever pan you use, you butter it. So this is margarine that I'm using to butter it with. It's not actually butter. So make sure you cover every part of that pan. I was going to put non-stick spray, but I decided to use the margarine instead. So if you don't want to use the margarine and you do want to use non-stick spray, it'll work. It definitely will work. So, all right, at this point, we're going to get our rice into the pan. Yep, look at that. Get our mixture into the pan. All right, we want to spread it evenly in the pan. All right, so if you noticed one thing, I forgot the gizzards. So at this point, I am going to put the gizzards in. I'm going to mix them in well so that you at least get gizzard in every bite, because that's what you want. Some of the meat in every bite. So. Yes, honey, yes. And so the liquid that's down in with the gizzards, you do not need that liquid. So you can strain it if you want to, or just do like I did and just take the gizzards out and leave that juice in the bowl. Don't put that juice in. All right, because you don't need it. At this point, we're looking for this to be really a nice casserole, but we don't want it soupy when you spoon it out. You don't want it. All right. And as I said before, this is going to go into a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes. And this is what it's going to look like when it comes out. Look at that. Garnish it with whatever you want to garnish it with. I'm going to use green onions, but if you want to use parsley, you can. That'll work just fine. Appreciate y'all spending this time with me. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe, share, and by all means, leave a comment. Thanks for watching. See y'all next time. Bye.